Ladies and gentlemen, Thunderlord was a heavy machine gun from Destiny 1 that made its way into Destiny 2 with the 2018 Festival of the Lost event. And if you were playing Destiny 2 back then, you probably remember just how good Thunderlord was. It felt like there was almost nothing that this weapon couldn't accomplish. This was a really good exotic. But over time, through nerfs, shifts in the sandbox, and more powerful weapons being introduced into the game, the once mighty Thunderlord has more or less fallen by the wayside. Anymore, it's not often that I hop into a match-made activity and see a Guardian carrying Thunderlord on their back. So I was curious, how is Thunderlord performing here in Season of the Chosen? Is this a weapon that's best left hanging in the vault? Or could it have a place in the current landscape of Destiny 2, if given the chance? I think the best way to answer that question is with a full weapon review, measuring its damage, functionality, and performance in both PvP and PvE. And if at any point you do end up finding this video useful, helpful, or enjoyable, feel free to leave it a like. Also, consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel if you'd like to catch more Destiny 2 content presented by yours truly. But as always, only do so if you think the content holds enough value to warrant your support. But let's get into the review and take a look at Thunderlord's stats and perks. Thunderlord is an exotic arc machine gun firing at 450 rounds per minute with 62 rounds in the magazine. For the stats, we'll pull in some solid numbers from Destiny Tracker. And overall, they look pretty good. We have a solid range stat at 69, very good marks in stability and reload, sitting at 64 and 69 respectively. The handling at 46 isn't great, but it's very comparable to other 450 RPM machine guns. The aim assist values coming in at a very healthy 90, and the recoil of 70 will cause this weapon to pull to the left as it fires. The intrinsic trait is Rain Havoc. Kills with this weapon generate lightning strikes from above. The exotic perk is Lightning Rounds. This weapon fires faster and more accurately the longer the trigger is held. Continuous damage generates lightning strikes. And there are also two other perks that add a bit of utility. First, armor piercing rounds, so bullets do extra damage to shields and over-penetrate targets. And Feeding Frenzy, where rapid kills increase the reload speed. At the time of making this video, Thunderlord does not have an exotic catalyst. But let's move into the PvE section to check in on our damage, functionality, and performance. Alright, we'll start out by taking a look at how Thunderlord works. First off, kills with this weapon do generate a lightning strike, which is basically just an area of effect damage field that will strike targets in close proximity. Lightning strikes can also be created through sustained damage on a target, which we're going to take a look at shortly. Next, when we hold down the trigger, the fire rate will increase, and it will jump incrementally with every 20 rounds fired. The first 20 come out at the base 450 rounds per minute, the next 20 fired off are shooting at 600 rounds per minute, and the remaining 22 rounds in the magazine will be shot at 720 rounds per minute. For the reload speeds, at base, we're looking at a pretty lengthy 4.5 seconds. If we equip a machine gun loader mod, this will be reduced to 3.7 seconds. But Thunderlord does come equipped with Feeding Frenzy, so if we rapidly kill 5 enemies before reloading, this will cut our reload time down to 3.1 seconds. If we have 5 stacks of Feeding Frenzy and a machine gun loader mod on, this will reduce our reload time to 2.7 seconds. For the ammo capacity, we can carry 220 total rounds at base, and 243 with a single machine gun reserves mod equipped. And onto the damage numbers. As always, keep in mind that PvE damage numbers are variable and can change depending on content scaling or enemy tier. I've been doing all my testing in the Conflux Lost Sector on Nessus, so these numbers will line up with any of my previous weapon reviews from Season 13. But Thunderlord versus our good buddy Karl the Colossus will hit for 2,407 points of damage on a crit and 1,717 points of damage to the body. But we are going to be proccing lightning strikes with sustained damage. These lightning strikes will occur after every 10th round landed, so in a single magazine, we can see up to 6 lightning strikes, which against Karl are dealing 5,002 points of damage apiece. So our maximum potential damage, if every bullet in the 62 round magazine lands as a crit, is 179,246 for the bullet damage and the 6 lightning strikes. The time to empty the magazine comes in at 6.32 seconds, so our damage per second through one magazine comes in at 28,361, which in terms of single target damage isn't great. If we take a look at Xenophage, functionally different, but still an exotic machine gun. With its 13 round magazine, it's able to deliver a total of 288,561 points of damage in just over 6 seconds. So our single mag DPS comes in at 47,854, over 20,000 points higher. Even Borealis, a special exotic sniper that I reviewed earlier this week, came in with a single mag DPS of 36,187. And that was just at base, without the exotic damage buff procced. But there are still some things that Thunderlord can do well. It is a very solid tool for clearing out adds. Now, for a heavy weapon in baseline level content, this is not a selling point. If adds need to die, use your primary weapon. That's what it's there for. But if you move into more difficult content, where even your basic adds are a little beefier, and they just need to go away right now, Thunderlord can do that for you. Against champions, it worked out pretty well for me also. Now, here in Season 13, machine guns have no anti-champion mods available to them, so they can't function on their own. But if you disrupt the champion by some other means, and then switch to Thunderlord, it does a pretty good job at melting them down from a safe distance, even if you're not landing all of your crits. And Thunderlord still worked out pretty well for me in Gambit also. It's certainly not the powerhouse that it used to be in that activity, but it's a decent invading weapon given its range and accuracy, and you can clear out sides of adds pretty quickly due to the AoE lightning strike damage. But at the end of the day, being that this is a heavy exotic, the damage output just isn't there. Now obviously if you're a Titan making use of active war rig, things will look a little bit better. But when I'm seeing special weapons out damaging a heavy exotic, I have to scratch my head a little bit. And I get it. Thunderlord's a heavy machine gun. It requires very little precision. It's effective from a decent range, and it has a very high ease of use. But that only takes it so far. When you start moving into higher end content, and it's taking the better part of a magazine to down a major target, it starts to hurt. Especially when you're only carrying 220 total rounds at base. That's not even equivalent to 4 full magazines. So if you're spending all your heavy ammo clearing adds, and bricks just aren't dropping all that often in the current activity, you might be out of bullets when you really need them. Also, there's no catalyst available for Thunderlord as of right now, and for a weapon that thrives when clearing adds, some orb generation would be nice. And lastly, in the heavy slot, there are a lot of weapons competing for your attention, and Thunderlord doesn't seem to be keeping up in many cases. If you have a legendary machine gun with a damage perk on it, it could probably output comparable, if not better damage than Thunderlord. And if you want to stay on the machine gun track, there's Xenophage. Great weapon. Absolutely zero precision required, and very solid burst damage. And with the damage buff that rocket launcher saw in Season 13, it's pretty hard to ignore him right now. There's just so many good options in that heavy slot, and it's hard to justify equipping Thunderlord when it feels like it's lagging behind a little bit. But let's head into PvP and see how Thunderlord's doing in there. In PvP, starting out with the damage numbers, Thunderlord will hit for 41 points of damage on a crit and 30 points of damage to the body. That puts our optimal time to kill at 0.53 seconds by landing 4 crits in 1 body shot, and the body shot time to kill comes in at 0.8 seconds with 7 shots landed. Something strange that I noticed was that on a shield break there's a bright flash created, and it seemed to apply some sort of status effect to the targets. But the thing is, this didn't seem to cause any tangible debuff or damage to the secondary target in any way, just a bright flash. But when the actual lightning strike is created, it will deal 65 points of damage to any target in close proximity, and it appears to have a total radius of about 6 meters, with damage diminishing out from the point of the strike. For the physical range, Thunderlord can hit for full damage from up to 41 meters away. Stepping back past that is when we start to see damage fall off. Versus a Guardian in their super, and a Stealth Spectral Blade does have slightly higher damage resistance than most other supers. But 10 crits did deal lethal damage, since the lightning strike did proc on the 10th bullet. Performance-wise, machine guns are still a pretty solid option for systematically picking up kills. Thunderlord has strong damage, good range, and can drop enemy Guardians pretty quickly. When pulling heavy ammo off the wall, we're gonna get 25 rounds, so if things go absolutely perfectly, we can secure 5 kills from a single ammo pickup. This isn't a very likely scenario, but you should at least be able to pick up 2 or 3 kills. The lightning strike collateral damage on a kill could be pretty useful if you catch some enemy players grouped up together, letting you commit less bullets to down any secondary targets caught by the area of effect. But Thunderlord's other exotic capabilities aren't going to present themselves all that often in the Crucible. And unless you find yourself flush with heavy ammo, the increasing fire rate isn't going to come into play, because we're only pulling 25 rounds at a time. And only when squaring off against an enemy in their super will that lightning strike proc through sustained damage. Also, Thunderlord does tend to jump and kick a good bit as it fires, so hitting your optimal time to kill will become more difficult if there's a decent amount of ground to cover between you and your target. And the time to kills, while fast, can be outgunned. Most notably in the current sandbox, by 120 RPM hand cannons or Dead Man's Tail, if the opposing player has a damage buff active. And this is using your exotic slot, and not giving you any serious utility over a legendary machine gun. And unless you just like the feel of Thunderlord, there might not be enough serious benefit to justify equipping it in the Crucible. For the verdict, while Thunderlord could be useful in some specific situations, overall it just feels like it's falling behind the curve. Its damage and its utility are outclassed by other heavy weapons in PvE, and really a lot of this could be addressed simply by adding an exotic catalyst. Orb generation and some sort of damage boost would do Thunderlord a world of good. In PvP, it's a perfectly serviceable gun, but it's hard to choose Thunderlord over a legendary machine gun just due to the fact that its exotic capabilities don't come into play all that often. So if you want to use a machine gun, that exotic slot would probably be better spent elsewhere on a weapon that's going to see a little bit more uptime. Hopefully, somewhere down the line, Thunderlord does get an exotic catalyst added to its kit, and perhaps work its way back into the conversation as a truly viable heavy exotic. But if you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave it a like, and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to catch more Destiny 2 content in the near future. If you'd like to contact me, you can look for Ironworker814 on Twitter, join our channel Discord, link will be in the description, or comment down below and I will do my best to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.